Okay, we're recording. It's October 31st, 2012, Halloween. It's interesting. This is kind of old, and I wanted to do a video about it before, but just haven't had time. The government has proposed that if you owe $50,000 or more to the International Monetary Fund's collection agency, the Internal Revenue Service, you do not get a passport to leave the slave plantation. So what they're doing is they're just kind of ring fence us all in the United States of America, a tax gulag, and even suspicion of tax fraud would be cause for the Internal Revenue Service, IRS, and anybody that's had any dealings with the Internal Revenue Service, and this is the way with the court system too, is that you're presumed guilty, or you are guilty, and guilty isn't what you think it means in this maritime admiralty court system that we're living in. Everybody thinks that guilty means, hey, I did it, I'm guilty of the crime. No, guilty means gilded, or you're going to pay. Okay, because when an officer accuses you under this maritime system, goes way back. I don't know how many years they've been using this type of a system, but when an officer of the ship accuses you, that means you're guilty. I mean, you don't have any. There is no question of the facts. It's just, hey, here's what you owe us, and you're going to pay. And you'll know that's true if you've ever dealt with the IRS. You have to prove that you're not guilty, which is impossible to prove a negative. So that's why the court system, the federal court system, has a 98% success rate in convictions. Because when you're born, they take your birth certificate. I've talked about this before, and they entered into it's called the Sasuke V Trust. And these corporations, the United States corporation, they don't have any way to make money themselves. They have to get it from us. So they're bankrupt, and they need to come to us to get the money. How do they do that? By contracting with you. You contract with them through birth certificates, signing the SS-55 with the IRS, registering to vote, marriage licenses, all these things. You're contracting with them. That's saying that you're an employee of this corporation. And just like any other corporation, they have rules and regulations, like, say, McDonald's. If you work for McDonald's, you couldn't wear a Burger King. You can figure that out yourself. But there's statutes and codes, and if you violate a statute and code, everything's illegal anyway in this paradigm that we live in. Everything. There's over, I don't know, some say 300,000 statutes and codes on the books. I mean, you don't even know. And, they say ignorance of the law is no excuse. So how are you going to know 300,000 statutes and codes? Everything is illegal, and you can be busted at any time for anything. And that's where it's going. I was arrested a couple of years ago for, I was riding my bicycle down on a bikeway, where people ride bikes, and it was built for that. It's called the bike trail. And I stopped, I was sitting by, there's an aqueduct there. I was just sitting there, and I've never seen them there before, but two sheriff's deputies ride by, and they're all bicycled up, and they ride by, and they just kind of stop and go, hey, how's it going? I go, fine. Great. What are you doing out here? Well, I'm riding my bicycle. Oh, okay. Do you live around here? And then all of a sudden I just go, hey, wait a minute. Why am I talking to these guys? I don't want to contract with you guys. I said, you know what, officer? I don't need your help right now. And unless I'm being detained, I'm going to go ahead and take off. He goes, oh, wait a minute. Hang on. Let me see your ID. And anyway, long story short, I didn't show him my ID. I didn't tell him who I am. But anyway, you can't deal with a base level policy enforcement officer. They have no idea what's going on. They're just an authoritative. They've been brainwashed. They're the slave drivers out there. And anyway, to make a long story short, they arrested me and took me in for what did they arrest me for? Terrible. I can't even remember. Resisting arrest, of all things, because I wouldn't show them my ID or give them my name. But anyway, to make a long story short, I went in and I saw the judge, and I told him, he goes, I'll plead guilty to the facts, which there are no facts, and I want to settle and discharge this account as soon as possible. I shouldn't even be going into this. But anyway, I got out, and there was no court reporter when I went in the first time. And when I came back, he goes, okay, go wait outside after I talked to him and I explained to him I was the agent for the person. And I was making a special appearance. He goes, go on, come back. I came back, and there was like a bunch of cops in the room now. And there was a court reporter recording the whole thing. And I go, you know what? I just I just want to get out of here. So, I plead guilty. Anyway, long story short, they put my my trust account on probation, or it's in probate, basically, because your person or your straw man is a dead entity. And what happens when they go, we're going to put you on probation for 3 years, and they put that account into probate. So it's like the register is open now. Now they can hit it whenever they want without any real, court thing. And you signed for it anyway. So I signed the paper, and I signed it as agent, UCC 3-201, and I boxed it and put it back in there. And they didn't apparently want to deal with me because the district attorney, or the assistant district attorney, told the judge, he goes, Judge, what is this? He signed it agent, and he boxed it in, UCC 3-201. And he goes, and then all of a sudden he goes, oh, what's your name? And I said, well, the name of the person is, Jeff Anderson. Oh, okay. I go, Your Honor, I just want to get out of here, because I don't know if everybody's been to jail. I happened to be in one that was one of the more nastier types, and I just wanted to get the hell out of there. Anyway, long story short, 3 years probation for my straw man account in probate. So now if there's any other statute and code violations, they can just automatically summarily just put you back in without any there's no due process really. You're guilty. Anyway, enough being said about that. The IRS considers you guilty. Your innocence isn't presumed at all, and soon enough, I don't think anybody will be able to get a passport. This is what Homeland Security, this is what the Obamacare, this is what TSA, checkpoints, all of it. This is what it's all for, because we are the surety for the securities, the bonds that have been distributed out into the international stock market, which are paying for the activities of the corporation. So we're the surety for the debt, and really the best way to reap the rewards off their chattel slave plantation is to charge you with a statute or a code violation, and then put you into a warehouse, which is the prison system, and probably pimp you out for pennies a day. Making the helmets and the body armor for the soldiers, making furniture, working in a call center for one of the other multinational corporations. Whatever. That's why a lot of jobs the unemployment's down, is because a lot of jobs are being farmed into the prison system. And ultimately, that's the goal of the whole thing, is they're going to have like one, this is my opinion, but we'll have one like super class of rich people, and then the rest will either be, kind of an on probation, parole in the prison system, working at the casinos or at the prisons, or in law enforcement, manning the camps. what have you. So what they propose, if anybody owes $50,000 or more to the IRS, you don't get a passport. You're fenced in into the tax gulag, and anyone who was prescribed, arrested, or convicted of using marijuana now will not be able to buy a gun legally. The Department of Justice has tasked the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms with enforcement of this new regulation. So you go by to the Second Amendment. Now, if you know the history, all of your amendments and all of your what you think is you have constitutional rights and these things and protected by these the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, you lost all that. We lost all that at the end of the Civil War in 1865. Okay, all that was gone. Actually, it was gone before that. Now they just use it to kind of placate the people. But if you had the right to keep and bear arms, it would be a right, and you wouldn't have to register your firearms, which is handing over a legal title of them to the state that you live in. So technically, the state owns your guns, so they just allow you to have them. I don't know if they don't. That's why legally they can come and get them. So you have the quantitative easing 3 now announced last few weeks ago. $40 to $85 billion in mortgage-backed security purchases. Morgan Stanley is the premier provider of this system of peddling junk bond mortgages. So when you go to buy a house and you sign the note, they don't they take the note and that's actual considered as payment. But then the bank takes that and sells it, packages it up as mortgage-backed securities. Also, birth certificate bonds are in there too in the mortgage-backed securities. Excuse me. So anyway, the Fed will certainly buy at least $1 trillion in the next year of these these toxic mortgage-backed securities, and the result will be Morgan Stanley is saved and can offload hundreds of billions in its toxic mortgage portfolio, and that's going to save Morgan Stanley and basically ditto for Bank of America, Wells, and all the other mega banks invested heavily in these securities. And basically, when you boil all this down, this is a stealth, too big to fail banker bailout. We were all waiting for, but it absolutely assured we'll spend every penny and then some on these funds. Basically to infinity. And what that means too is they're going to own, the government's going to own the mortgage on your house. Now here's where it gets hairy. Like if you ever owe child support or anything like that, and you miss a payment, and this happened to me about 10 years ago, and if it's court-ordered judgment that you have to pay it, and you get delinquent, they'll send you a warrant. They'll put a warrant out for your arrest to come in and see I think it's a family court judge, and what he says, they're not, because you think of like debtor prisons and things like that, but they kind of flip-moded it because he says, well, I want you to make, they look at all your finances and everything. You can afford this amount of payment every month, and if you miss that payment, automatically, bam, they issue another warrant for your arrest, right? And of course, they'll try and take it out of your paycheck. But if they can't do it that way, or you lose your job or something, and they automatically issue a warrant. The first warrant you get, and this is from my experience, this was 10 years ago before I even got into any of this stuff. They'll say, if you miss one more, we're going to let you out of jail this time. But if you miss one more, it's 15 days in jail. Ooh, okay. And it's not because you missed a payment; it's because you denied. You're considered in contempt of court for not following the judge's order. And if you go in there voluntarily and you say yes, I'll do it. Yeah, right. So here's the deal with that. This is how they're going to be putting people in prison into these prison camps, what I call debtor prisons, as a result of the Fed purchasing all these toxic mortgages. And the basis for this assumption, the Fed plans to criminalize any delinquency, default, foreclosure, or short sale. So now they're going to own your mortgage, and if you miss a payment, they're going to file a civil complaint against you in the courts, and you're going to get you're going to get a summons to go to court. And the judge is going to say, look, we're going to look at all of your finances, and you're going to have to pay this amount. And if you miss it, then you go through the whole steps, and then next thing you know, you're in prison. So that's how they plan to do it. 15 to 25% of homeowners are either delinquent or in foreclosure, depending on the area right now at this time. 250,000 new foreclosures every month. 1.5 million people in foreclosure today. 10 million mortgages are underwater. That means you owe more than the home is worth. So the FHFA, the federal housing, plans to go after after the strategic defaulters, those who walk away from their mortgages. That'll get you put in jail because you owe the money, you owe the bankers, and they own you, so they want their money. You agreed to be the surety for the securities when you signed and you checked the box that said I'm a U.S. citizen. So anyway, going into this agency, the FHFA will focus on the efforts on criminally prosecuting those who are not paying on their loans. 47 million people in this country are under the $27,000 poverty level. $27,000 poverty level, and how do you make a payment when you're only making $27,000 a year? I mean, you can barely live on that. So imagine what would happen if a family was told they could be arrested if they tried to default on their home loan, walk away from the home, since it's upside down mortgage, or simply cannot afford to pay the mortgage as a choice of overeating or heating the home. Food inflation's going up. Will rip into family budgets. If it hasn't already, 20% of American families have food insufficiency. A family could effectively be jailed in their home, forced to pay the mortgage, or in reality jailed by the feds for not paying on their mortgage. And that's where the work farm and FEMA camps come to mind. The prison system, they're building more prisons, and it's probably the biggest industry right now in this country. As I've said countless times, there's more people in prison in the United States of America than any other country per capita. It's like 700 out of every 100,000 are somewhere in the prison system. And I talked to a friend of mine today. He just got picked up because he was on probation. I don't know what he was doing, but he called me from jail. He's like, "Hey, man, so I got to look into that now." Anyway, so this is the modus operandi. So now they have these work farms. They're going to be set up for the families, FEMA camps, because they need new slaves to keep the to feed the beast, to feed the monster. They need more laws. They need longer sentences. They need. That's what Congress's job is. People think they're up there, for them, but they're not. They're working for the corporation. The corporation, all they do is write new laws, new statutes and codes. That's all they do. So they're going to put you in prison, manufacturing consumer goods, weapons for the military. China is pricing itself out of the market. So if the domestic prison labor force can be made to work for 23 cents an hour, that was disclosed in a new article relating to military uniform manufacturers forced to pay off over 100 employees due to uncompetitive manufacturer pricing, then it's just a matter of timing and money before these plans are implemented. If someone was delinquent on their mortgage or lost their home, they would not be able to get a passport. You can't leave. You're in prison. And I've told people that look around, they look at me like I'm nuts, but if you look at the cameras on all the street corners and you step back and take a look at the big picture, especially with the Obama thing coming in, they're going to have control of your bank account. Read that shit. They're going to have control of it all. What they put into your body, what you can eat, if you're I don't know. This is what we're facing, people. That's why I recommend people, get your initial documents in order, turn off the television, and study what you're going to need to do to go into this new system. Either it all crumbles down, or we're looking at some hellish times. Well, a lot more restrictive. There's another one too. There's over $1 trillion in student loan balances out there. 29 to 35% of them are delinquent, and 50% plus unemployment in graduating student means a wave of defaults will occur in the next couple of years. The Fed controls 100% of the student loan market. These loans are not dischargeable by bankruptcy, and now all you are is you got a piece of paper with a degree, but you're really just now a debt slave. I don't know. Hopefully some of these college students will figure something out and do something about their situation instead of just going along with it. I don't see it though, because people are more and more getting dumbed down. I have a hard time even talking to the general public. They just look at you like you're insane. What? Because the minute I start talking to someone, I just go right into it. I don't waste any time. And it usually blows them right out of the water. So no passports. Social Security payments, tax refunds, unemployment checks are all going to be seized. No passports for mom and dad either. So for any reason or no reason at all, will be used to prevent for the sheeples and the tax slaves from leaving the gulag. Anyway, this is it's the USSR system. It's the Russian system. They perfected it. And like they said at the DNC convention, we all belong to the government now. Go to www.stopthepirates.blogspot.com. I've put together some information here that probably will, if you do it, save your life and make your life a whole lot less stressful. Anyway, thank you for listening. Anyway, stopthepirates.blogspot.com.